Hello everyone. In this video, we'll talk about the physical characteristics of water. For more such videos and solved examples, you can sign up on our website apscd.in. The link is given in the description. So when we go for the quality control or when we have to do the water treatment, so we have to first understand that the raw water that we are obtaining, what are the qualities of this water, because from the health standards, from the health point of view, we have to see what all chemicals are present, or if bacteria is present, or some physical properties also we can say. If the color is there in water, what is the temperature of water, what is the turbidity of water. We have to understand these characteristics of raw water before we can give it the treatment, or before even we can provide it for water supply. So here we are trying to understand the characteristics of water. So we can divide these characteristics in three parts, that is physical, then there can be chemical characteristics, and there can be microscopical characteristics, or we can also say the biological characteristics of water. So first of all, here we are starting with the physical characteristics of water. So if we talk about the physical characteristics, so we have turbidity, that is one of the physical characteristics. Then there can be color, and we can say the odor or taste. Then there is temperature and specific conductivity. These are the physical characteristics which are generally measured, and we'll be going through these one by one. So first of all, let's talk about the turbidity of water. So what do we mean by turbidity? So if we have a water body, and if the body is not transparent, or let's say we take some water in a glass and we cannot see across this glass, if we are seeing from one side and the other side is not visible, or we can say if there is some muddiness present in the water, then we say the water is turbid. So we can say turbidity is the state in which water is not transparent. Now the reason for the water to lose its transparency is the presence of suspended matter. It can be some clay particles can be there, or sand particles can be there, or some other inorganic particles can be present. Other than that, some organic material can be present, to name a few. So because of the presence of all these suspended particles, the water will lose its transparency. That is, if these particles are in suspension in water, so when the light is incidenting on these particles, it will be scattered, and it cannot be simply transmitted through this sample. So we say the water is turbid. Now if we see the health aspect of turbidity, so in itself many of these particles may not be harmful. That is, if clay is present, then it may not be harmful, or if sand is present in small quantities, it may not be harmful. But first of all, it does not look aesthetic. No one would want to drink a water that is having turbidity. Other than that, if we talk about a water body, a lake or a river, and if it is turbid, so there is a lot of surface area with the help of these particles that is available for the bacteria or other type of pathogens. So the surface is available, and that may lead to some waterborne diseases. So because of that reason also, it is not desirable. Other than that, if it is a water body, then because of the turbidity, aquatic life may be hampered. So fishes may not survive in such water. So these problems are also associated with the turbidity. Now let's talk about the measurement of turbidity. So first of all, there is a standard unit for this measurement. So we compare the turbidity of a sample with the sample that is made up with some standard values. So we take 1 milligram of silica, and it is diluted, or it is mixed with 1 liter of distilled water. So here we'll take 1 milligram of silica and we'll mix it with 1 liter of distilled water. So the kind of muddiness here we'll obtain from this mixing in this sample or in this water, that we define as the standard turbidity unit. So the old turbidity meters, they are based on this standard turbidity unit. So first of all, the first instrument that we have, the simplest instrument, is the turbidity rod. So it is basically a scale, a graduated scale, and this bottom end of this scale we have a platinum needle and there is a tape connected at the upper part. So if we have a sample for which we want to measure the turbidity using turbidity rod, so we'll take the sample and then insert this turbidity rod and we'll put our eye at this level. At this level we'll put the eye and then we'll keep on lowering this turbidity rod in this sample, and the height at which we cannot see the needle, this needle here will be visible from this level. So as we are lowering it, because of the turbidity, at some level this needle will stop being visible. So the height at which, on the scale we'll read the reading at which the needle is stop being visible will give us the turbidity of the sample. So that is the easiest way to measure the turbidity, but it cannot measure turbidity which are having very small values. So in general, turbidity, if we talk for different water bodies, so if a glass of water that is looking turbid to our naked eye, if in that case, most likely the value of turbidity will be above 5. In the standard turbidity unit, this value will be greater than, it will be mostly above than 5. And if we talk about a clear lake, if a lake is there, then for this clear lake, the value of turbidity is around 25 units. And if the water is muddy, then in that case, this value is above 100. So with the naked eye, we can only measure at max a turbidity which is around 5 turbidity units. And if we talk about the limit of turbidity that is given by Indian standards IS 10500, so it should not be, if it is possible, the value should be 1, and if no other source is present, then this value should never exceed 5. Though this measurement is made in nephelometric turbidity unit, which we'll see in some time, but that will still give smaller values. It is not directly related to silica measurement. So it is coming in this small range. So by using turbidity rod, we cannot measure such small values of turbidity. Then we have next instrument or next method, that is Jackson's turbidimeter. So in this case, we have a candle and on this stand we'll have an arrangement or a glass tube in which we'll start filling the sample, and we see the light passing through this water from the top. So we'll start filling water in this glass tube. So initially this light from the candle, it will be visible from top, and as we keep filling the water in this glass tube, there will be a point where we cannot see the light from this candle. So the height of water in this glass tube we measure, or with the help of this height of water in the glass we measure the turbidity in this case. So what we are trying to do in this case, we are trying to measure the interference. So interference is caused by the presence of these particles in the water, and because of that this light that is coming from the candle, it cannot reach the eye. So we are trying to measure the interference of this light which is being caused by these particles in the passage of light. That is the principle on which all these turbidimeter work. So in case of Jackson turbidimeter, the unit is given in Jackson's turbidimeter units. So if the value of height here, if we say the value of height at which the light stop being visible, if it is h, So if the value of H is 10.8 centimeter, then it reflects 200 JTU or Jackson's turbidity units. And if this height is about 21.5 centimeters, then the value of turbidity is 100 JTU. And if this height visible is about 72.9 centimeters, then this turbidity is about 25 JTU. So this is the minimum value of turbidity that can be measured with this turbidimeter. So it can only measure between 25 to 1000 milligrams per liter. So that is a limitation, because if we talk about the drinking water, then that value will be lower than 5. So it cannot be used in such cases. Then we have other types of turbidimeters. Next one is Bailey's turbidimeter. So in case of Bailey's turbidimeter, we have two sample tubes. One will be having a standard value of turbidity which is known to us, and then there is another sample that for which we are trying to find the turbidity. So it can measure the values between 0 to 10 ppm or milligrams per liter. So here we have this box, and here there is a cobalt glass plate, and here we place two tubes because we are seeing from this side, so we can only see one tube. One tube will be behind this tube, and here we place a bulb. So this bulb lights up, and these light rays goes in all the directions, so they will be hitting this cobalt glass plate. So these cobalt glass plate are of blue color. Now because of the blue color of these glass plates, this water will also look blue. So we try to compare the blue color in the two tubes, the two sample tubes that we have. So we look from here and compare the blue color in these two tubes. If the color is different, so we'll change it with another tube of known turbidity and compare it with the sample for which we are trying to find the turbidity. So by this color comparison, we find out the turbidity of the sample. So Jackson's turbidimeter or turbidity rod or Bailey's turbidimeter, these are the old methods. Then we have the modern turbidimeters that are known as nephelometers. So in case of these older methods, the light was incidenting, and in the same direction we were trying to measure the interference. That is, in this case, this blue glass plate was having this light and then this blue color, and then this light was going in this straight direction, and we are measuring this from the top. So the light, incident light, and the light that we are measuring, both the lights are in the same direction. Even in this case of Jackson's turbidimeter, we were measuring the light that was falling from this bottom. So this is in a straight line, and we were measuring from the top. So the direction of incident light and the direction in which we are measuring this light, both are same. Now if we talk about nephalometers, in this case we measure the light that is reflecting at right angle. So at 90 degree, what is the light that is reflecting from the sample. So here we'll place the sample, and there is this lens which is trying to point the light at a single point, and then we have a lamp here. Then we have other sensors also. These are photometers, with the help of which we can take the readings in this case. So here we are not using our eyes, because that will not give reliable results if we are talking about high accuracy. So here we are using photometers instead. So one of the photometers will measure the light that is being reflected at 90 degrees, and then there will be some light that will be transmitted from the sample. So one of the photometers will measure the transmitted light, and then there will be some light that will be scattered. So whatever is the scattered light in the forward direction, that we measure with this forward scatter detector. So there is another photometer for that. So we are measuring the light that is reflecting at 90 degree, the light that is transmitting from the sample, and the light that is scattering from the sample. Then we find out the ratio of the reflected light to the transmitted or the scattered light to obtain the better results. Now in the case of the snephalometer, we cannot use the silica unit. As I told, even the IS code that gives the value of turbidity between 1 to 5, that is based on the nephelometric turbidity units, that is different than the silica unit. So in this case, this standard unit is made with the help of formazine polymers. So with the help of using formazine polymers, we make a standard sample, and the turbidity what we obtain, I mean this NTU value, it is also called as the formazine turbidity unit. So here we are using this formazine polymer instead of measuring the standard turbidity with silica. So these all the methods, these are the lab methods that we have covered here, and that can be used to measure the turbidity of a sample. In recent days, if we talk about a water body for which we are trying to measure the quality or other parameters, so nowadays we have these sensors available that can give the turbidity instantaneously. We don't have to bring a sample from this river to our lab to obtain the turbidity. So in these cases, for the instantaneous result, there will be a sensor that will emit some light, and then some of the light will come back. So based on the light that is emitted and that is coming back, the turbidity in these modern devices that are installed in streams and other places, it is measured. I hope you found this video useful. Please like, subscribe and share this video with your friends.